Hey everybody, it's Mark Schultz here, and we are live with another episode of Recovery in Aviation. Hey, it's a great day in aviation. We're seeing so much, increase in activity, and I'm really glad to be able to be here, to be able to talk about recovery, to be able to bring you good information and good news for you to be able to affect your business, and for us as an industry to be able to be successful in bringing things back to recovery, to accelerate that recovery. Hey, there's so much news out there that's negative and is so bad. And we want to continue to focus on the positive aspects of recovery in aviation. And together, we are going to create recovery. We're going to accelerate it. And together, we're going to be successful. Hey, this broadcast today is a live broadcast. And you, as the audience, have an opportunity to be able to interact live with our guests today. And all you have to do is down in the comments is to be able to ask your questions. And a number of times during the broadcast today, we are going to be answering questions live. So you'll be able to jump right in and be part of this broadcast. Take your opportunity to be able to be part of it, be part of the recovery in aviation. Hey, also, I wanted to ask you if you would help us and distribute this broadcast by sharing it. If you'll share this broadcast, it helps get the message out and gets other people involved in what we're doing. So ask questions, share the broadcast. Hey, do it now, all right? Hey, listen, this broadcast is all about recovery in aviation. We're going to talk about what's happening right now. We're going to talk about what is it that you can do and what are the factors of success. And the way that we do that is we fashion it around industry experts that are out there doing that today. Industry experts that are accelerating and bringing efficiencies in the industry and helping aviation to recover. And so today, I'm going to bring to you some special guests that are part of our series of Recovery in Aviation. And the company is TrackIT. All right, TrackIT. I'm sorry. And today I have two special guests with us. I have Soma Sekar and I have Hemvati Pandey. And I wanted to welcome you guys on the show today. How are you this morning?
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Everything is great. Yes.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Hem. So they like to go by Soma and Hem, and so we'll be calling them Soma and Hem today. Hey, listen, Soma is the CEO of TrackIT. And Soma, where are you located today? And what is your company doing in aviation? Just give us a little bit of information about your company.
Right. Hi, Mark, and hi, everyone. I'm actually based in Dubai, and currently I'm in Hyderabad, enjoying the hot summer here in India, running into 45 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. And TrackIT is an exciting company, and what it is trying to do is to bring the technological edge into certain niche areas in the aviation. And we are extremely successful with suspect bag tracking systems. It is adopted by multiple airports in multiple regions worldwide. And we are translating that success using RFID technologies that we have achieved with bag into the domains of MRO, as well as in ground support equipment, tracking, and in other niche areas of the aviation.
Okay, let me ask just a small little follow-up. I'm not certain that people out there would really understand what suspect tracking of bags is. Can you tell us what that is?
Right. So these are the bags carried by passengers which are bringing in knowingly or unknowingly certain material which are prohibited in that country. So typically it always happens at random. So we bring a systematic tracking, rather identifying those passengers carrying those bags and stopping them at the customs exit. And those passengers who are not bringing in those prohibited material, they're allowed to just pass through. So that brings in so much of efficiency at the exit gate. So passengers, they just walk through who are not bringing in any prohibited or contraband items.
Yeah. So how long has your company been doing this?
Oh, in fact, we have been doing this for the past 10 years, and TrackIT is about 15-year-old company. And in fact, all the airports who have adopted this solution are extremely happy about it. And it is the customs officers who get big benefit.
And the technology is you're actually using RFID technology to track the bags. Is that correct? How does that work?
That's correct. Yes, we are using passive RFID technology, which is a cheaper way to implement, or how we can identify those suspect bags, and then we track that bag from the time the bag is picked up from the carousel by the customer or the passenger, and he walks through the customs exit, right?
So that's been a really successful implementation for you, for the company, and that's really where you started, was to use RFID technology in order to be able to track bags. That's really interesting.
Absolutely.
And then I understand that now you've decided to take that to the next step, and you're applying that same philosophy of using RFID in other spaces within aviation. Now, where have you taken it next?
Yeah, absolutely well said, Mark. And we have started with bag, where we are using disposable passive RFID tags. And we looked at other areas, which is the MRO, especially the engine service, where the parts tracking or the job tracking, it's actually a lot of inefficiencies crept in. So we have deployed reusable RFID, where the tags can withstand high temperatures and chemical resistance, and we have deployed it in a reusable way, very economical way, and very successful.
Okay, well, so let me just ask a little bit of a follow-up question. Is now you're applying reusable RFID tags, all right? That's really interesting. Now, it's my understanding that that RFID is a technology which has been considered for some time, within aviation and within MROs and things like that. And I know of several places where it's been successful, like, for example, in emergency equipment and tagging emergency equipment. Let me just start with a multi-part question. Are you using it in any of the areas like emergency equipment or anything like that today?
Absolutely. Fire safety equipment or any other fixed assets or inventory items. See, wherever there is an identity that is required, including people or including life vests or including fixed assets, you name it, wherever there is an identification need, we can deploy it, and we have deployed it very successfully.
Yeah, okay. And I've seen, and the reason I brought that up is because I've been to a lot of MRO shows, MRO Americas, MRO Europe, Middle East, and I know that there's been companies that have focused on, hey, RFID technology can be used to rapidly inventory and to check, emergency equipment. So we know there's been successful implementation there. All right, but I got to ask you a hard question, right? Because I know there's listeners out there today that have said, hey, we've been talking about implementing RFID in maintenance for many years now, and it hasn't been successful. All right, and I when I talked to you, I discovered that you have found a very interesting way to successfully implement reusable RFID tags in the maintenance process. And I want to just take a few minutes to actually discuss that with you. So, can you give us just a quick overview, and then we'll look at a little bit more details on it? Is that what are you doing to change the way RFID is being used in actual aircraft maintenance process to make it successful today?
Mark, typically in any RFID adoption process, the technology is less than 5% in terms of playing its role, but it is the functional aspects that would decide and determine whether the adoption of the technology is successful or not.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So let me drive a question over to Hem here for a minute. So Hem, is that you're the business head unit, you're the business head leader of the MRO unit specifically, right? Is that correct? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're focusing on MRO, all right? Now we have a little bit of a graphic here, which sort of shows a little bit of the process in MRO and how you're using RFID in an MRO process or a maintenance process. But could you start by maybe explaining to me on how you're using MRO in a back shop process, maybe as a starting point?
Yeah, sure. So on-track MRO is a productivity enhancement platform. And when we say productivity, it is about what is your turnaround time? How fast can you churn the maintenance, right? And the typical process that you see on screen is about the various steps that are taken by the shop, right? So you have the disassembly, you have cleaning, NDT, inspection, so on and so forth. So what we do is that we say that on-track MRO brings the AI-enabled actionable insights, right, for the shop managers as well as for the management, we capture the data through RFID, as Soma was saying, right? And as the part moves along the process, we capture the timestamps, right? When it was maintained, when there was a check-in or check-out. So the graphic at the top, you see is a gate between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? So it contains a portal which has an array of antennas and screen, yeah, which captures as you move out with your kit cart or with your parts which are tagged, and it is registered, you know, in our system, and it tells you when this part was moved, how long, how much of time was spent on the maintenance, because it is not only tracking at the part level, we track at the task level also. So you
Yeah.
have the complete insight of how much time you spend on a particular maintenance activity.
Yeah, I've worked with MROs and I've worked with software which is involved in the execution of tasks in back shops. All right, and I know that there was there was two major complaints that the business unit leaders of those MROs complained about. Number one is they said, I don't have visibility into what's happening in the shop. I send a part back to the shop and I don't know where it is in the repair process and when it's going to come out. That's one complaint they had. And then the second complaint they have is they don't have the gates like what you've defined there. All right. Now, so if I understand what you're telling me correctly, is you're actually using reusable tags. You're not trying to put the tags on the parts. What's happening with the RFID tags?
Yeah, so there are different types of tags that we use, as Soma was mentioning. There are special tags, polymer-based tags, which can withstand 250, 300 degrees C temperatures, and as well as the caustic environment, which the parts are subjected to in terms of cleaning and NDT, right? And so these special tags are either put in a pouch if it's a bulk part, non-serial parts, or tagged to the part itself as the part moves through a tie wrap or different means. And as the process is complete, the complete maintenance cycle is done, the repair is approved by the inspector, the part is available for kitting, and that's where once the part is available for the shop for rebuilding the engine, the tags are removed, and and the entries are made or captured.
Yeah, the really interesting thing to me is that when you started telling me about this technology, a while back, is that my first reaction was, well, people have tried to, put, tags onto parts and it doesn't work because tags, fall off or it's a problem. And so there's been a lot of, concerns in the industry about really doing this, but the way you've implemented it really is interesting to me because by using reusable tags that are either attached to a part or that are included in a paperwork or in a pouch, as the part is moving through the overhaul process, it really sounds to me like you've created an environment now where you can track those parts through that process and create those actionable insights that that you're really looking for. That really sounds like you've come up with a creative way to use a good technology, RFID, and apply it in a way that really works.
Absolutely. Mark, let me just say a few words here. We have done extensive research in identifying the right tags to suit the process. That's point one. Point two, the adoption process has been fine-tuned where you have 200 to 300 parts on a metal cart moving through a portal, and we read them 100%. So that requires a lot of fine-tuning, a lot of expertise that we were able to bring onto the table. And the third, most important, is how the data captured has been matched extremely well with the functional processes and requirements, and how messaging or actionable alerts are pumped into the system. I think this is what differentiates between a system deployment that's a success or a failure.
Okay, well, that's great how you guys have really cracked that. Now, I understand that you have production implementations in engine shops. There's hundreds of parts in an engine. Hem, can you tell me how in the world are you managing, all of those parts, in an engine shop, using RFID tags? I mean, how do you apply them? How do you keep track of them? I mean, there's just so many things going on. I mean, help us understand how you would apply this technology in an engine overhaul process.
Okay, so as you saw in the previous graphic, right? Once the engine is inducted, I'll take engine as an example, but it is well replicable in say a APU shop or a landing gear shop or a wheels and brake shop. The process remains the same. right? So the post induction, as you go through disassembly, there's an off log. That means the total components or the items which are coming out of the engine is called an off log. And once your off log matches your kitting parts, that's where you start rebuilding the engine, right? So what we do is that as the modules come out of the engine and we start disassembling it into components and parts, we assign them the specialized tag that we were talking about. And as the parts then move through various shops, say cleaning, NDT, and repair shops, as well as the parts that go out for specialized repairs. Today we see many parts go out of a independent MRO ecosystem for specialized repairs. Now there was no way or means to track those parts. Today we are doing that using Bluetooth Low Energy tags. Uh, and we know exactly when the part has arrived, and we know exactly when we're going to put it to the kitting and say that my kit is complete. Please start rebuilding the modules and engines.
Yeah, so let's sort of take these thoughts for a minute, and between the two of you, I want to drive this back to the discussion of recovery in aviation. All right, so we know that in aviation that we got a lot of airplanes that are on the ground, and we know that some of the changes in MROs are going to occur. There's aircraft that are going back and forth to leaseholders. You know, we have a lot of things that are happening right now in aviation that are going to require us to be more efficient in what we're doing. Can we have a little bit of a discussion about efficiency, just so our listeners can understand this? Is that how is what you're doing really impacting the efficiency of doing a repair? Can you help me with that?
Sure. So typically, you see that MROs have ERP systems, right? And the wonderful thing about our platform is that it is ERP agnostic, right? We work with various ERP systems, and we even provide data to them back when we capture those insights. So ERP system has its own merits and demerits, but we work in conjunction or without it, right? When you study the data of a typical MRO operation, you see that most of the work which is done on shop floor in terms of labor hours, optimization of that brings you a good chunk of savings, right? And we can easily see minimum 10 to 15% of savings, and that's like giving you an additional capacity. And that would mean, say, for a 50 shop floor shop visit MRO, it would be a 10% gain. That means you would be able to overhaul 5 more engines in next couple of years, right? So that gives you a right away top line gain of 15 to 16 million.
Yeah, you have this concept which you brought up, Soma, you brought up, I think you said actionable alerts, okay? And so you're taking those actionable alerts and you're putting them into some kind of a graphical presentation. And we have a couple of screenshots here which sort of show a little bit about what you're doing with those actionable alerts. Can you tell us, what it is that you're trying to present and why you're trying to present this information to the user of this application?
Right. See, taking a step back, in fact, the need of the hour is to enhance efficiencies internally as well as externally. That's what exactly we are trying to bring it here. So whether the user is sitting at his desktop or he's moving around with his mobile, he will be able to know exactly what is happening in the shop. So if there is in every section and in every section of the workshop, right? So he does not have to go through lots of data. He will get an alert on what he needs to do where there is a shortfall, and he will be able to act on it immediately so that there is no dead time in the workshop.
Yeah, I've seen that repeatedly when I've looked at back shop operations and at MROs and airlines. Is that when people need to have a clearly understood execution plan. But the biggest problem is they don't have insight and information about what's happening during the repair and overhaul process. I saw one MRO recently, which just basically set up a series of gates and said, if I could just know when a part goes from, gate 1 to gate 2 to gate 3, it helps them to understand that. But I see you've taken it, quite a bit further and not only established that concept, but you're giving information to come back. And I see you've tagged it as actionable alerts, that you can make decisions based on that information that's coming back to you, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, management by exception is what is the order of the day. I do not have to sieve through tons of data, but I just need to know what is the data item on which I need to act on. That's what is the need of the hour. That's what we bring to the table.
Yeah. And how do you turn that into more of a proactive action process? How do you use this to maybe proactively ensure that you're making the right decisions?
Absolutely. Ham, would you like to answer
Yeah.
that?
So, I mean, when we talk about actionable alerts, right? So we use AI and machine learning for that. And now you have the data. Now you know how much time you spend on maintaining a particular part or a particular type of engine. And there are many maintenance types. There are many different types of contracts. There are many ways in which the operator flies the aircraft in various conditions. And that decides what kind of maintenance is going to be performed. And once the engine comes, and we review all the data, the past maintenance data for a similar kind of maintenance, what kind of work scope was defined, what kind of parts were ordered, what were the bottlenecks in the system, because that is important for actionable insight. Where was I stuck, or what was my unscheduled removal? I mean, removals that were not decided beforehand cost you money, right? So we use all the data and bring the data upfront in terms of dashboard notifications. Say, hey, this operator operates in this area, and these were the last kind of snags, as well as unscheduled removal, or these were the challenges that were faced that caused x amount of days of delay in your final ship set. So it alerts you beforehand when you decide on the work scope, when you decide where the engine is coming.
So you're not only capturing data through the use of this RFI technology and you're creating these actionable alerts and you're presenting it to the user, but you're also doing some analytics then of that to be able to do some predictive decision making as part of that process.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the chart that you see on a screen is a typical chart sample that we've taken. It's a cumulative data, and you see that the planner has given 1.4 average plan days for the task. But actually, when we studied the data for 9, 10, or 15 engines, we realized that it was not 1.4, but actually shop floor time was 3.2 days. So that's the gap. 1.8 days of additional workforce was deployed fulfilling those tasks. So this is the money lost, right? This is the capacity utilization issue, and that's what we highlight. And this is just one chart, but there are many charts which will tell you what are the vital components that you have to address, what are the vital bottlenecks that you need to address to arrest such leakages. We call them leakages because that impacts your top line and bottom line. Maybe not that much the top line, but definitely for bottom line.
Right. We have another chart which was just put up here, which I find really very interesting, is that I see that you're doing two major things. When we're looking at creating efficiencies or creating success in aviation right now, what do we have to do? We have to create more money. We have to create more revenue given the circumstances that we have, and we have to reduce cost. And what I'm seeing here is that an example that you presented, which says, hey, there's an opportunity to be able to increase revenue and to be able to reduce cost. Can you make a couple comments about those 2 points?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we have seen that MROs were struggling with the capacity pre-COVID time, right? And not that it has vanished now, because as the flying resumes, you would see the volumes building up again. What we are saying, this is a simulation for a 50 shop visit MRO, engine MRO. And what we see that after freeing the capacity based on the deployment of the system, we see that we give additional capacity of 5 shop visit. That means 5 more overhauls that the MRO can pursue now, which brings the increase in top line to say 15 million additional top line. As well as what we say is that 1.8 million is the savings that you get, and this saving comes out from the labor hour savings that you saw in the previous chart, the delay in part marshalling, cost of lost tools, cost of lost parts. So much of time is being wasted in identifying the parts, and in large shops especially, you see a lot of parts get lost. With this technology, you won't see that. You would keep track of each and everything.
Yeah, see what you're doing is that you're creating efficiency in a process and you're shortening the process, which is giving the opportunity to get more engines through the overhaul, thereby opportunity for increased revenue. That's great. That's fantastic. And then at the same time, you're reducing the cost of actually executing on the work and giving expense savings. So for those that are looking for increase in revenue as well as decrease in cost, I see you're addressing both of those through this process.
Absolutely. We are addressing the top line and the bottom line both.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, listen, I want to see if we have any questions here that have come in from our audience at all. We'll take a look here. And I want to just let you know that you have an opportunity to comment and to ask questions. And so as I kind of go on to the next part of this discussion, we'll keep an eye out for the questions there that keep coming in. But, one of the things I like to do when I bring experienced individuals onto this program is that, you've been in the industry, either the IT industry or the aviation industry, both of you have for many years now. And I think it's important that we give the viewers and the listeners some of our expertise, is that we help to share that. And what I really would like to ask you is that as a CEO, Sama, of the company, is that, do you have any advice for someone running a company on what they should be doing in this time to be able to help be successful? What are you doing in your company during these difficult times to ensure your company is successful?
Right. It's very important. Nowadays, this is unprecedented times, and it is a true black swan event for the industry. However, a company that is committed to make a difference to the industry, irrespective of the times, whether they are bright or whether they are darker, objective is to continue to support them. I think that is what TrackIT is trying to do. And we are trying to help our customers in enhancing the products, modifying it to whatever they require for the newer challenges that are being faced by them. And we are internally, every one of us are motivated to continue to be interacting with the customers and then assisting them to basically to whatever the modifications they required, whatever the changes they wanted, we are out there supporting them.
So paying attention to your customer and looking Absolutely. At the changing landscape for their business. So what's happening in their business at airports? How are things changing? How can you support them at engine overhaul facilities? How are things changing right now? How can you support them? And so your advice right now is saying, listen to your customers, see what's happening in their business, and support them dynamically with what their needs are.
Absolutely. And making sure that we all continue to be motivated internally, and we are at it.
Well, let's ask that question. How do you motivate your employees in your company, during a time where it's really difficult? We're all locked down, we're at our homes. I mean, how are you helping to motivate the people in your own company?
In fact, I would leave the question to him to answer that.
Okay. Give us
Soma is a great motivator. I mean, it's an understatement if we say that he's never bossy, right? So he always encourages you, and as an employee, the encouragement for us is that the product that we are the product we are taking to the market should be the best product, and how we can save for the customer and what brings value to the customer is prime for us. So in these times, what we are trying to do is to innovate things further, bring newer modules, newer plugin devices, newer APIs, which will even further enhance the operational profitability of MROs. So there's a lot of work going on back on the drawing board on how do we bring better efficiencies even further.
Yeah, fantastic. Our industry, we need to look around at the landscape around us. We need to look at what's changing. Look, we're seeing more airplanes flying. I'm seeing a lot of airlines that are saying that we're going to increase our schedules through June and July. We're starting to see some countries opening up. I read this morning that Spain was going to allow people to travel without a 14-day quarantine when they arrive. And so we're starting to see both international and domestic opportunities to be able to travel. I had some friends that flew to visit some family last week. They were traveling. And so we are definitely seeing increased activity, in our industry right now. But what we are going to see is a need for to reduce expenses. We know that everyone's going to be impacted financially. We know that we need to create innovation. We need to look for opportunities where there's new revenue, which we can seek after, and to be able to increase those revenues. And so the most important advice that I think that we can provide to one another is for us to be able to be dynamic, be ready for change, support our customers and really innovate and provide the support that our business and our customers need really to be successful. So I think, it's exciting to see you guys having products that both drive revenue and that also be able to bring, additional cost savings. And hey, let's see if we have a couple of questions here right now. So I got a couple of questions that are coming in. So why don't we just grab one here, this first one here. And the question here says, what are the typical savings on an average percentage or dollars that you've been able to help customers achieve? So gentlemen, anybody have any thoughts on what the typical savings or increase in revenue that you've been able to address with some of your customers?
Yeah, I think that's what we were discussing earlier, right? So we the baseline efficiency that we deliver is 10%. Anything upward of it is something we target, and usually we land up between 15 to 20%, right? And the efficiency we drive based on the overall revenue that you do today, or your overall volume that you address today in terms of shop capacity, right? So we give you enhanced capacity as well as the savings, right? That 1.8 million figure is the savings figure for 50 shop visit simulation, and those savings come from arresting revenue leakages, finding the cost of delayed arrivals. I mean, that's a significant cost, because the part that goes out of your ecosystem, if you don't track what time it comes back, and if it is in the warehouse, nobody knows about it, right? It costs substantially to an MRO, because then the MRO, the engine rebuild process moves towards the right so much more, right? So to arrest that brings you efficiency. And there are other 7-8 parameters, right? The cost of lost tools, cost of lost parts, part marshalling delays, etc. So that 1.8 million figure comes out from that.
Yeah, I want to support that by saying that I personally have actually implemented IT solutions at over 200 MROs and airlines, over my career, right? And I can tell you that in the last couple of years, I have actually seen MRO facilities achieve, 10, 15, 24, 42. I saw one operation achieve a 42% improvement through the implementation of execution technologies like this. And so when you're saying there's a 10% opportunity for improvement, I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think that's a conservative view of what the opportunity is for cost savings and for improvement of revenue. So I think that's definitely what we're seeing in the industry. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a point. The SLA and KPI monitoring is something that would bring in the efficiencies. And unfortunately, most of the MROs are not equipped to monitor those SLAs and KPIs. That's point one. They need systems to do that, and that's what we enable. And most importantly, again, going back to your previous question mark, these are the times to look at the inefficiencies within the organization and remove them. When the load is less, let's deploy the times to reduce inefficiency.
Yeah, don't back off. Accelerate what you're doing in order to be able to create an innovative, successful environment. This is the time when we have the time to do it. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we have another good question that came in, and I don't know whether you can answer this or not, because sometimes questions are hard, but I'm going to throw it at you. All right. We'll throw this question up here. So it was a bit of a different take on this. Is that what is your uptake on how it will help to track GSE or ground equipment and efficiency tracking? So I really don't even know if you're focusing on GSE, or things like that. But can you help us addressing that? Are you focusing on things like tracking of GSE or things like that?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Him, can I take the question?
Sure, Suma.
Right. So, see, the GSE is another place where there's a lot of inefficiency, and the GSE tracking is fundamental to enhance the turnaround of aircrafts from the airport. And our N-Track GSE product is tuned or designed to track both motorized as well as non-motorized equipment, minimize the idling time, reduce the maintenance money that is to be invested on the products, right? So the tow bars, follies, pallets, etc., they are exactly what we track with our tracking technology, and then provide real-time visibility of all of them.
Oh, okay. So you actually have a GSE tracking product then?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's just refresh my mind again. Is that what are the core areas that you're addressing? With the tracking. Then, so you have bag tracking, you have MRO and maintenance tracking, you have GSE tracking. What else?
Yes. And we also do the life vest tracking. Yeah.
Okay.
And we also help duty free to track their inventories. And if there are certain, some duty frees in Middle East, and I have seen it in Far East as well, they conduct lotteries as well. So we actually deploy RFID technology to audit those lottery process as well, right? And we also provide for their fixed assets and the terminal assets tracking. Yeah. Wherever we see an opportunity to track assets, we provide that service to them.
Yeah, I just want to say again is that I have to let you know is that I've been in this industry for almost 40 years, all right, and I've seen RFID solutions come and go, and there are a lot of people in aviation have said RFID it really doesn't work. It's been around for a long time, but Soma, you told me when we had an earlier discussion that, hey, listen, it's been so successful in other industries like retail, and you guys have found a way to make it successful in a lot of different spaces within aviation. I just have to tell you personally, I'm impressed with the success that you're having in implementation of RFID and the impact that you're really making. Let me just ask you another hard question is that, how did you get into this market? I mean, why did you decide to go after RFID tracking when so many people have had problems doing it?
Yeah. See, I think we have, first of all, believed in the technology. We believe that the technology has a lot of potential. Okay, and we have committed as an organization to bring visibility to any vertical that we have undertaken to provide visibility through RFID and complementary technologies. And this demanded a lot of self-belief in our assessment, and we have committed to that as an organization. And we went on achieving the efficiencies in RFID deployments in a variety of quarters, and we have been able to bring those efficiency and translate them to money, either in cost savings or in revenue enhancement to every customer that we have addressed, right? And I think this continue to increase self-belief that we can continue to provide more and more efficiencies to our customers. And then we chose one vertical, aviation, and we said, this is where technology can be better deployed. We can bring in more efficiencies. And that's where we have zeroed in on aviation as a
vertical. I just really think it's an innovative reassessment of a technology that's been around for quite some time and applying it to a modern day, challenge. And so I think you guys have done a really good job of doing that. Hey, we got a couple more questions that have come in. I want to grab them. Why don't we grab this one right here? And there's a little bit of background that's on there, but let me just kind of jump to the end of it. It's saying, there's a lot of parts that are grounded during this pandemic. In MROs, there's non-moving or non-used engine parts. So the question is that, some of these parts expire or they get dry. Can you track like expired parts, or how would you help with inventory and tracking, expiration dates or expired parts, or, let's kind of address that. During this time, there might be some parts that have been sitting for a long time in a warehouse. How can you help with that kind of situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall I take it? Okay. So not only during this time, Mark, this has been a problem with the MROs and maintenance organization for quite some time, right? You have a lot of scrap which is generated, and we are talking about expensive parts for which the dispositions or for which the maintenance schedule or maintenance scheme or repair schemes are not defined, right? What do you do with all those expensive parts? So there are warehouses filled with scrap parts which are expensive, awaiting a proper disposition in terms of how they can be maintained or repaired, right? So soon we are bringing a module. We have started working on it, which will be on the scrap management or the parts which are not being used at this point of time, and we will use the same passive RFID technology to track all those parts, so that as you go towards the right, and when you have those maintenance schemes available from the OEM and the airworthiness authorities, you would quickly go back and look into those parts and bring them back into the mainstream. That's a goal, and we are working on that. So it's fairly well achievable. I mean, in the current landscape that we have.
Okay, yeah, definitely. RFID has definitely been used in inventory and keeping track of, parts and their expiration dates and where they are, has always been something that's there. And you guys are just going to be able to enhance that, definitely. Hey, that kind of flows us into the next question that I want to bring up here. We have a person out there that's asked a question really about integration. So I know earlier you said, hey, we integrate with major ERPs, and we know there's systems out there like, Amos and Trax and Aerosoft and, Ultramarine and all those different major ones, Oracle, SAP, all of those. Now, so the question that I think someone's asking here is that how well can you integrate with those types of systems like that? Talk to us a little bit about integration and how that works with an ERP system.
Right. Let me take that question here. Right.
Sure.
See, in fact, I wanted to thank Mr. Lewis for bringing this up. Right. For a system to be successful, the data needs to be integrated with the existing systems. Otherwise, the value of the additional data or tracking data that is brought onto the system is not useful. So integration with the ERP or other airport systems, it can happen at data level or it can happen at lower level. They must be integrated with the airport systems as well as the ERP systems. And that is what we do. Now, this is also a differentiator. In fact, Mark, you kept on asking what is the secret of success of TrackIT. The success of TrackIT is bringing the tracking data derived from RFID and integrating them with ERP and other airport systems. Right? This is exactly. In fact, I want to thank Mr. Lewis again for bringing this up. And yes, they are integrated with a variety of methods. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, so it's good to hear that your system is flexible, and I definitely see it as a module that can be added to a IT portfolio. All of us have an existing IT portfolio, and one of the biggest challenges we all have is deciding which pieces to bring into our portfolio and which we can use to, help add and enhance. And we definitely want to do that based on a return on investment kind of a process. And so, absolutely, integration is an important part. And I hear you saying that's a strong part of what you're doing. Hey, listen, I have another really good question that's come in that I want to bring up because I think it's really valid. And I think people are always asking themselves this. So here's a question here, is that we talked about using reusable RFID tags. And the question here is that, hey, you talk about reusable RFID tags, why not use permanent RFID tags? And so I've heard you tell me before that there's a place for reusable and for permanent. Can you talk about that? Because I do believe that there's a place for both. Can you address why you'd use reusable or why you'd use permanently attached RFID tags?
Sure. Can I take that question, Hank?
Sure, yeah? Sure.
So, you see, what actually happens is there are certain, the moment a tag is permanently applied on a part, it has to have its what you call the airworthiness. So there are, like, for example, if you look at A350 today, there are close to 2,000 parts that are permanently tagged with RFID, right? And there are certain parts where they require additional data that has to go onto memory. So you have certain high memory chips which are applied onto those. But it's not necessary to apply permanent RFID tag on every part, especially if you look at an engine. I cannot place a permanent RFID tag. However, I want to improve efficiency in the engine MRO. So this is where we adopted reusable RFID tags to bring in those tracking efficiency. This is restricted to or limited to an engine shop, if that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add to what Soma said, and there is a place, and we are using permanent RFID tags also to tag those trolleys and kit carts, right? So those are the fixed and movable assets which aid in the part movement. So we permanently tag them, while we use the reusable tags on the parts that are going to be put back onto the engine and flown back or shipped back to the customer. So that's the difference. We use both of them. We also use barcode technology. We also use BLE technology. So I mean, it's an amalgamation of all. And one important point that I want to tell here that we missed to mention is that the deployment time of the platform that we have, right, from the requirements gathering to a final system delivered, we are so flexible and so fast that it takes 1.5 to 3 months based on how big your shop is to fully deploy our system, and you can start working on that. We also digitize your past maintenance data so that from day one you have the insights on what you have done in the past, and if the same problem arrives in future maintenance, what you need to do. So you don't have to wait for the data accumulation. Typically for data scientists, you need that kind of data. We already capture that data too.
Well, that's good. That's a really good deployment time. So just clarify that for me again. Is that what is the typical amount of time then it's required to deploy such a solution like this?
Yeah. So first of all, we are very flexible in terms of how we model this, right? We offer the complete system and platform on SaaS model, right? And we bring the complete system to your premises. We install it, we deploy it, we show you how it works, we train your people, right? And we charge nothing. That's the beauty of it. It's a completely SaaS based model. The charge comes or the payment arrives only when you start maintaining those engines or landing gears or wheels and brakes or APUs, right? So that way you don't have to worry about the additional investment or the capex that you want to put into the system that we provide.
Yeah.
And as far as the deployment goes, how ERP system, how much time they usually require to set up an ERP system, so many modules, right, and then train everything. But we are very flexible. We have many modules, and we integrate and deploy them within 1.5 to 3 months based on how big is the size of the MRO. Right, when I say big, I'm talking in terms of shop visits, right? Usually we take 50 shop visit as the baseline, but if it is more like 100, 200, 300, it might take near to 3 months. If it is a smaller one, it might take just 1.5 months.
Yeah, no, that's really good, because it's really important right now in these times that we have the ability to be able to deploy solutions, quickly, because we do have immediate expense problems and immediate, revenue problems in the industry. And if we want to create success, we absolutely are going to have to, find ways to make changes, quickly. Hey, listen, guys, we have had a really good discussion here today. And I really think that what you've done for me, and I hope that it's done this for our listeners here today, is that you've provided some really thought-provoking ideas about how to use this technology. A combination of people, process, and technology is always what I say. Number one, you have to believe that you can make an impact out there. That's important. Number two is that good people and organizations jump on processes, improve processes, and implement enabling technology. And together, we use those things to create successful digital transformation. And what you're seeing here, my friends, is a really super example of digital transformation, where a technology which is stable and has been around for a long time has had some good people wrap some good solid SaaS-based kind of software around it, ideas and thoughts, and turn it into a successful approach. Demonstrated successfully in the use of tracking of bags at airports for 10 plus years. Been applied to GSE, been applied to engines and MRO overhaul facilities. I personally think, with my experience, that you guys done an outstanding job of addressing some challenges that our industry has. And I know you're going to make an impact in helping people to continue to be successful. Hey, I want to give you guys each kind of a last word here. Is what remaining thoughts do you have for people in the industry? Hem, what do you have for people, and what can they do to be successful out there today?
I mean, what I feel is that digital transformation is the way to go, right? It was there earlier also, but it's just kind of being suggested on and off, right? But this is the time where you can focus and build your digital efficiency into the system, whatever your system is, whatever your operations are in aviation. And let's not leave it as a keyword or a boardroom discussion topic, but really go and implement it and see it does wonders.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, Soma, how about you? What's your last word for our folks out there? How can they be successful in these difficult times?
Enabling each other is the mantra, right? And TrackIT is out there to enable efficiencies in our customers, our partners, whoever is in the aviation ecosystem, TrackIT is there to enable them.
Absolutely. What a good thought. Enabling. That's good. Very good. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining us today. This has been a session in recovery in aviation, and we've wanted to really focus on, what we're seeing out there that's good and how people are helping each other, enabling one another to be successful within the industry. And, we want for you to be successful in aviation. Aviation is my passion. It's been my passion since I've been a young boy. It's not just a passion, it's obsession. And I've been involved in digital transformation for many, many years now. And there's nothing more than what I want than to help people out there to be successful in their journeys and accelerate recovery in aviation. Let's work together as leaders with great enthusiasm and create recovery in the industry. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks,
Mark, for hosting us. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. All right, let's sign off as I normally do. I'd like to tell you fair winds and following seas to you, and have a great day. And we'll see you on the next broadcast. Bye.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.